Okay, so today I'm going to talk you through a 10-minute Pilates introduction. We'll begin in lying with the knees bent and the soles of the feet resting flat onto the ground, roughly hip distance apart. To begin with, we'll tilt the pelvis forward, so we're arching into the lower spine. And then let's tuck the tailbone under so it's like we're imprinting the lower back towards the ground. Now you can inhale to roll forwards, arching the back. Exhale, tuck the tailbone under to squeeze lower spine towards the mat. Just do this a few times to notice how much mobility you have into the pelvis and the lower spine. And then begin to find a neutral position that feels roughly halfway between these two movements. It should feel as though the back is relatively long in this position. Begin to engage through your deeper core, your transversus abdominis. So just imagining you've got a belt running around the front of the pelvis, and it's almost like you're drawing up and in. Now let's begin to lift one leg up into our Pilates tabletop. The hip and the knee are in line and the leg is at a right angle, creating a shelf-like position with the shin. And then the other leg can lift up to meet it, so we're in double Pilates tabletop. Release the first foot down and then release the second foot back down. So inhaling, we can lift one leg up, other one comes to meet. Exhale, lower one foot and then the other foot towards the ground. Keep this movement going for a few rounds. Now, whilst doing so, we're ensuring that the back stays in a really nice neutral position, so avoiding any rounding or arching into the lower spine. You might want to place your hands onto the hip points just to make sure the pelvis stays nice and neutral as well. And you could inhale to lift and exhale to lower. Let's just go for two more lifts here into our double Pilates tabletop. Whenever you do get to the end of the movement, it might feel nice to just draw the knees into the chest to release the lower spine. Come back to a position where knees are bent and the soles of the feet are resting flat onto the ground. Now this time we're going to work our upper abdominals by placing the hands behind the head and interlacing the fingers, almost like you're creating a hammock for the head here. On an inhale, draw your chin to your chest and you're going to lift your head and shoulders away from the ground. So you're rounding forwards and lifting the upper body, crunching the upper abs. Exhale, release the shoulders and release the head back down. So it's like a scooping movement. We initiate chin to chest, then we're lifting the head and the shoulders away from the ground. Exhaling, releasing one section at a time. Now keep this movement going. We're really mobilizing through the upper trunk here, but we're strengthening at the same time. And Pilates is all about this mobilizing with strengthening. So just imagine the joints of the upper back opening as you round forwards. And then try to control the movement of releasing the shoulders and then the head back down towards the mat. Let's just go for a couple more. So rounding forwards, crunching through the upper abs and keeping the chin towards the chest to protect the front of the neck. Whenever you do get to the end, release the hands down onto the ground. Now this time, walk the heels in towards you so you can tickle the backs of the heels with your fingertips. We'll set up for a bridge, now working the hips. Again, come back to your neutral spine position here. You might need to take a few pelvic tilts to start. From a neutral position of the pelvis, we're going to inhale to tuck the tailbone under, imprinting lower back towards the ground, and then slowly start to lift the lower back, the middle back, the upper back into a bridge position. Now, when you get to the top of the movement, make sure you're not overarching or extending into the back. So in fact, there's a slight tuck of the tailbone under to keep the back nice and neutral. As you exhale, release the upper back, the middle back, the lower back to a neutral position at the pelvis. So inhaling, we're tucking the tailbone under, slowly lifting one section, then the next, and then the next away from the mat. Press through the heels to engage the glutes and draw in through the lower belly, engaging the lower core. Exhaling, releasing down with control. Let's keep this movement going for a few more rounds. Just ensuring as well that as you lift the legs, the knees aren't flaring in or out, they're pointed directly forwards. And this is almost like a pelvic roll up as you lift and lower through one section at the back. As you raise, really imagine peeling one vertebra away from the ground at a time And as you lower, feel that nice slow descent towards the ground. Let's take one more round, engaging the glutes, engaging the lower core, and slowly releasing down with control. If you need to at the end, draw the knees towards the chest. Lastly here then, let's have the knees bent, soles of the feet resting flat to the ground. Come back to your neutral spine, neutral pelvis. Let's begin to lift one leg up and then the other into a Pilates tabletop. Hip and knees are roughly in line. On an exhale breath, lower one foot down towards the ground to tap the toes. Inhale, lift the knee. Exhale, tap the toes on the other side. So we're taking our tabletop toe tap, releasing one foot down at a time. Now, effectively, the movement here is coming from the hip, so we're maintaining our neutral spine position. You should be really feeling this recruitment in your lower abdominal muscles, and just ensure that your shoulders are nice and relaxed towards the ground. So it really is just the lower body that's doing the work. Now, if you want to make this more challenging, you can tap the toes a little bit further away from the hip points and just try to make sure you're not arching through the lower back. Or you can also interlace hands behind the head, lift the head, the shoulders, crunch the abdominals, and add in your toe tap here. Keep tucking chin towards the chest. Although the head, the shoulders are lifted, we're making sure the pelvis still remains in a neutral position. Let's just go for 2 more cycles each side. Find your control, exhale as you lower the foot. Again, when you do get to the end, if you need to, draw the knees in towards the chest. We'll just take one last one for upper abdominals and for the hips. So coming back to a neutral position, again, we'll lift one leg up and then the other Pilates tabletop. Now this time, squeeze the knees together. Imagine you've got a piece of paper between the knees and you don't want it to drop. In squeezing the knees, you should just notice how your lower abdominal muscles work here to support the spine. Place the hands behind the head, interlace the fingers. Inhale, let's add in our quarter crunch, chin to chest, lift the head, the shoulders round forwards. Exhale, release the shoulders and the head back down. So if it feels too much to have the knees lifted, you could always release them down, but just try to see whether you can keep the knees nice and still. So all the movement really is coming from the upper trunk here. Remember, we're drawing the chin to the chest to protect the front of the neck. The lower back stays nice and neutral, neutral pelvis, squeeze of the knees. And do try to flare the elbows out to the side to create some openness into the chest. Let's go for a couple more here. So remember, we're trying to stabilize the lower body, so all the movement is just isolated to upper body and we're using the upper abdominal muscles. Take your time to finish the round. When you get to the end, again, maybe you want to draw the knees towards you. Last little bit for the hips, take a roll over onto one side, and we're just going to finish by working our deeper glute muscles. So finding a clam position here, knees bent, make sure your hips and heels are in line, and just tuck down the top hip to make sure your pelvis is in a neutral position. If you can, draw in through the lower belly, activate your lower core. Let's begin with level 1 of the clam here. Keep the heels together, but just lift the top knee to rotate into the movement and relax the top leg down. So we're lifting out, squeezing the glutes, lowering back down with control. Now make sure the movement is coming from the hip here, so the lower back stays nice and still. Again, if you can, engage through the deeper core. You can allow the feet to flare and rotate, and this will give you a little bit more range into the movement. And if you wanted to progress this, you could lift the feet away from the ground, adding in some instability, but also just seeing if you can find a larger range into the movement as you really work into this clam position. Let's just go for a few more here. So movement from the hip, working your rotation, drawing in through the lower core, and making sure the upper body is nice and relaxed. You're not drawing your top shoulder towards the ear at all. That top shoulder is down. And we're working our deeper glutes, glute medius, glute minimus, really important for stabilizing around the pelvis when you're transferring your weight from side to side, walking, running, and great for protecting against knee pain, back pain, hip pain. Let's take 2 more. Release the knees down. And then you can just take that over to the other side to finish off, doing the same number of repetitions, working the other hip. We'll finish there today.